make a name for himself.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, it is notable. You know, Tord has actually more than just international championships victories. He came second at the European International this year.
Yes.
He's won so many internationals, we forget to mention second place at internationals, which is phenomenal. Also, I just want to give myself a little bit of a reprieve from earlier. Shoichi Saito is actually listed as an Australian player on the bracket, so I'm forgiving myself for my earlier slight of so yeah, anyway, let's get rolling. We've got Tord, we've got Victor, we've got Gardevoir, we've got Gardevoir, and well, there's a fun little parallel here because, of course, the first time we saw Tord with Gardevoir was round 1 at the EUIC in a Gardevoir mirror match.
Oh, yeah.
There's a nice little symmetry going on here.
Yeah, Gardevoir mirror match. Very difficult to maneuver. It depends on a lot of factors. Who gets the setup first? Going first is very important. Who gets the first attack off? You have to do a lot of calculations. Of course, these Gardevoir EX damages your own Pokémon, and then something like Cresselia becomes very powerful because you can either get rid of some damage and then take a knockout on Ralts on the bench, for example. You can take knockouts on Curlias on the bench, and you can just take knockouts for the Shining Arcana Gardevoir as well. And you have to play around this. Both players know exactly what they're doing, I suppose. I would take a big guess that Tord probably tested a little bit more than Victor, but that might not be even true. This will definitely be an amazing game.
I mean, one of the things we saw in the interview from Tord earlier was just saying people don't know how much I've prepared for this tournament. And, you know, for a lot of players out there, Tord among them, this is the main hobby. This is what they do. They play a lot of Pokemon because it is a game that really means everything. So we've got two Iono next to each other. No major problems there. Tord has prized a Luminion. It is the only Luminion in the list, so that is the only thing I think we need to be watching here. That one Luminion prize, which is a one-off, that could come back to be a problem in the future.
Yes, we also have not too terrible prize cards for either player. We saw yesterday, for example, one player prized Curlia, Ralph, and I think it was Angus Johnson, right? 2 of the Zacian V. But in this, it seems like this game will not be decided by prize cards. Let's hope it will not be decided by terrible draws either.
Yeah, what we want is both players drawing quite well and just outplaying. That's what I love to see about mirror matches, where one player just, it's not about how well they drew, it's about the decision they made, a chance they took, a calculated risk, something that gives them an edge over their opponent. That's what I'm looking to see when I'm looking at these mirror matches.
Yeah, mirror matches are, usually they fall into like one of 2 categories. They're either like super complicated and really interesting, or they are just completely dependent on luck. And there are some players tend to just call mirror match just luck in general, because the better you get, if you play perfectly, then it's, of course, it's only 100% luck, right? But if you're not able to play perfect, then you know, well, like, there's so much stuff that you can do by just playing better than your opponent. I think Gardevoir was one of these matches where you really have to play a lot better than your opponent. But of course, yeah, the cards you draw, your luck has a big impact, especially in mirror matches.
No, absolutely. Something we have seen before, and I'm sure we've seen it from Tord before, but don't hold me to that, is I'm going first, let's get free energy on a Zacian, and then see if we can start taking some cheeky prizes. See how fast Victor sets up. Because you need free energy to attack, so if you play it, energy, use the ability, then on turn 2, before your opponent has had a chance to evolve, you can attach the third energy, take the first prize, and really put your opponent on a clock. That's not the case here, though. All Tord gets is the Battle VIP pass for 2 routes, passes over to Victor, who has a Battle VIP pass of his own, but if he does anything else here, then he's had a better setup than Tord.
Yeah, talk about mirror match. Both of these players open the first turn exactly the same, but it seems like Victor is actually going for a completely different approach. This is what I love, what to see in a mirror match. 2 players, they draw the same card, but they make completely different decisions. This is how you immediately know, yeah, this is a game of skill here. Tord just going for a lot of rolls, while Victor tries to go for Mew, be a little bit more aggressive. Retreat, use Mysterious Tail, and hopefully maybe even get the second Battle VIP pass.
Yeah, Radiant Greninja there as well, which can draw some more cards. No targets
no
off
card
the Mew.
Oh, God.
All Pokemon and energy. No trainers, let alone item cards.
This hurts, yeah.
Yeah, it really does. Hopefully we got an energy there for Radiant Greninja to draw a couple of extra cards. That would be a big advantage, of course. This is awkward. Now, the good news is for Victor, because Tor didn't bench the Zacian, although it's possible to get a KO on that route, it's unlikely. Victor ends the turn with 2 routes. Oh no, all 3 routes, sorry. There is that lovely artwork rare, plus the Mew and the Radiant Greninja. So yeah, in the end, a pretty good turn there from Victor, honestly. Oh, but Tord gets the turn 2 rare candy into Gardevoir, and it's the one that can get extra cards. So you look at the top 2 cards, you draw them. However, if there's energy, you can attach it to your Pokemon if you so wish. Looks like Tord is choosing not to attach it because he has nothing in his hand, and he'd rather have it in his hand to use for something else, maybe even a Radiant Greninja in a moment.
Yeah, exactly. I think going for Radiant Greninja is one option, or just going for the Mirage Step. Curler here is also a great option to have. You just attach the energy active, you go Mirage Step. You used 1 rare candy, so you can still get, oh yeah.
There we go, you called
like,
it, damn
yeah,
it.
let's go, Mirage Step. You have to know I'm a Greninja person. And
it's water duplicates all over again.
Yes, exactly. I love this card so much.
I'm
happy to see it here at the Worlds.
It's awesome. Worth noting, Victor does not play Mirage Step Curlier. He has gone for 4 of the Refinement Curlier. And look, I think this is our 3rd Gardevoir game together on stream this weekend, David. And all 3 Gardevoir games, we have seen somebody use Mirage Step, and the previous 2 times, it's worked out pretty well. I think that 3-1 split, and I was talking earlier about watching games and going, that's the play. I'm watching this now, and I'm like, why would anyone not play 1 Mirage Step Curlier?
Yeah, and all the Gardevoir games that we got, Mirage Step was even like extremely crucial in the end for the victory. And it seems like in this situation as well, like in the mirror match, it just allows you to have like extra curliers that just stay on the bench forever as well, right? Like you have 1 refinement, even if you evolve 2 of your rolls, you still just have the curlier ready. You can use it for a super rod later, use a super rod, and then immediately evolve the curlier that's already there in play, and you just have your refinement and Shining Arcana. You can use all of this at once. Let's see how Victor is now responding. Got a little bit unlucky with the Mew earlier, but nothing too bad to throw him off with his game plan.
Now, he's got an Ultra Ball for a Curlier here, so that's going to be able to evolve up one of his bench routes. And, you know, he's got access to Mew, he's got access to Refinement now, he's got access to concealed cards on that Radiant Greninja. So he's got access to a bunch of cards this turn. Is it going to be the right cards? We see an Iono, so nothing yet. But what we see, and we see this a lot, and there's a very good reason for it, you play the Iono before you start using the abilities, so you've essentially got the maximum number of cards in order to hit that rare candy Gardevoir combination. There are still 2 routes sitting on the bench, or we have seen rare candy with an Ultra Ball. So if we want a Gardevoir this turn, we can have it.
And there's also Battle of IP Pass, which is just a very nice card to just put into the discard pile by using Refinement. Refinement, of course. I think one of the reasons Todd likes Gardevoir so much is because he is a big trader. So he just loved Zorak, the GX, so much that he became the Pokemon trader himself. And now Refinement is basically the same. So it's just like a great... He's just completely used to this play style, to this ability. Great card, as we see Victor.
He's hit the Gardevoir EX, so he's got Candy and the EX in hand. I don't think he's got the single prize Gardevoir, so it depends which way he wants to go. He's got 1 route left open. If he wants to EX this turn, he can have it. Oh, and he's just drawn into the other one, so now he's got Rare Candy and both different Gardevoir in hand. He has got a free choice of whichever Gardevoir he wants this turn.
Yeah, now there are multiple options for Victor. He could try to get like a cheeky Gardevoir play. Using Zacian seems very risky because Todd plays Reversal Energy and he has 3 Curlier in play, Rolls on the bench, Gardevoir on the bench. He can just get a return knockout, potentially. So there might even be a play where Victor just Yeah, let's Mew active. Yeah, he just wants the Ultra Ball.
He literally didn't even look at it. He used Mew to look at the top 6 cards of his deck, looked at the top 1 card of his deck, and he's like, yeah, I'll take that. That sounds good to me. Hasn't shuffled his deck yet, but it doesn't matter because he is playing the Ultra Ball. Of course, even if you take the top card, you still have to do a good old shuffle after Mew, but it's not an issue because you play the Ultra Ball and you'll shuffle up after this one.
Yeah.
Now there's
the anticipated cheeky Cresselia play. Yeah, I like Cresselia much more than any other attacker. There are 2 options. You can either try to get some damage, use Moonglow Reverse or Lunar Blast. In this situation, probably Lunar Blast is the better play, but let's see what Victor actually decides to go for.
Yeah, we're going to see some energy accelerated here, getting some damage on a bunch of his Pokemon, and then presumably moving it over using, oh, that's very nice. You actually get 2 uses of the same energy, which was pretty cool. And
yeah, no Lunar Blast, but a
bunch coming on here.
Reverse.
So now, presumably, we're going to get a KO on one of those Curlier there. Yeah, there we go. All 8 get moved over onto the Curlier, and Victor takes the first prize here with that Cresselia. And I mean, that turn 1 was a little riskier from Victor, but it worked very, very nicely. And we saw that turn, all the refinement to conceal cards and Mew, all of those different ways to draw cards led him into, I mean, a really impressive turn 2 setup.
And being a little bit aggressive with Cresselia is also very nice because it allows you to attach energy cards, but also heal the damage. And the damage is something that becomes important later because it depends. The damage on your Pokemon determines how much energy cards the opponents need. And then how many energy cards they need depends on how much damage they place and then how much damage they have already. This is a back and forth, right? Ideally you have no damage at all. The only issue if you use Moonglow Reverse this way is that it kind of takes your options from later. You have to decide where you want to attach your energies first, and then sometimes you don't have enough energy cards left for later. But yeah, very nice play for Victor as we go over to Tord, who plays a level ball for a Mew.
Yeah, and Tord's, obviously seen Victor's Mew and gone, you know what, that Mew's pretty good. I'd like one of those. And, Tord's, there's not a huge amount there at the moment, but he's got a lot of drawing options. He's got 2 Curlier, he's got the Gardevoir. So we saw how much of a difference it made when Victor got the EX out and started attaching energy. But Tord is now behind on prizes. He doesn't need the EX if he's got reversal energy, and that's what we seem to have here. So we've got a big Professor's Research. Mew actually not going into play, just used purely as a deck-filling option. Tord thinks he's got enough draw elsewhere, and does have the Forest Seal Stone, but does not have anything to which to attach it.
Yeah, and in this situation, you don't really want to use your Zacian, for example, because yeah, it's a 2-price knockout, and in theory you can play this matchup where you just use a lot of the Brainwave, Shining Arcana, Gardevoir to knock each other out. There's of course the Cresselia play is still an option for Tord as well, just to knock out one of the Curliers. For Tord it has a little bit more of a value as well because yeah, Victor only has 2 Curlier in play, Tord has 3 at the moment. As long as he evolves the Mirage Step Curlier into a Gardevoir EX, for example, then he will have 2 of the refinement available to him. The other option is, of course, just retreat, attack with Gardevoir, and take an easy knockout.
He has Rare Candy Gardevoir EX in hand, so we could evolve either the Curlier or the Routes. Of course, I like the idea of evolving the active Curlier so that bench Routes can then become a refinement Curlier later, give you access to more draws as the game goes on if you need it. We've now got an Ultra Ball there to search for the refinement Curlier if you want to do so. Tord's got basically all his options open here. I'm pretty sure got Cresselia in hand.
Yes.
He's got the Gardevoir EX in hand. He's got a bunch of energy in the discard pile already. So he should be able, if he wants, to basically copy Victor's homework and just use Gardevoir EX, get energy on the bench, and then move all the damage using Cresselia over to a Curlier.
Yes.
Go and get that KO.
Yeah, seems like a very nice play. Also, Tord is able to use Rare Candy Gardevoir and also evolve the active Curlier into a Gardevoir as well. I'm very interested to see which one Tord chooses to use for which, because it kind of depends, because you do not usually attack with the Gardevoir EX, but you attack with the Shining Arcana Gardevoir, and then if you use Rare Candy and the Shining Arcana Gardevoir gets knocked out, you don't have the option to shuffle Curlier back with Super Rod, for example. And this is something that Tord is definitely aware of. So I'm very interested to see which choice Todd actually makes. As we see, yeah, the Cresselia going into play definitely seems like the best option here, trying to disrupt Victor's board's plate as much as possible. As we see a rare candy going for, yeah, Shining Arcana into the rolls on the bench. The curly on the bench, yeah. Sorry, rolls on the bench, yes.
Absolutely, and we are going to see the active going into Gardevoir EX. We've got Cresselia on the bench. He's counted up the energy in his discard pile. He's done all the prep work. Here comes the beautiful special illustration rare. Thinking about it.
Oh, there now Todd is thinking about, do I retreat first and then evolve? Or do I evolve first and then retreat? If you evolve first and then retreat, you can put damage, but you don't put energy cards. And then the damage, of course, disappears because of Cresselia. But if you retreat first, then you have to attach a bench, an energy to the bench, and you cannot move that energy away later on. So here you have another very small but important decision to make, and Todd goes for the option to evolve, then retreat, which means you can have damage on your Gardevoir, but no energy card, which is very important because you need energy cards in the discard pile to keep a Cresselia going and also to make better choices later on in the game.
Absolutely. So, we've got that Gardevoir on the bench with a whole bunch of energy on here now, but this is going to be the standard. Attach energy, you need... Actually, you don't need any more. This is enough. You don't need to keep attaching to those bench Curlier. You don't really want the energy sitting out there. You want it in the discard pile to accelerate with Gardevoir EX. Basically, there's enough damage on the board now that you can move all the energy. That's good, move all the damage. And what Tor's done really nicely here is he's actually made it so the only energy left on the field is going to be on the Cresselia, which needs it to attack, and on your single prize Gardevoir, which, as you've said, David, they are good attackers in their own right. There's no energy just floating around on Tor's side of the field, whereas Victor has 2 energy on those Curlier, which hopefully they evolve into the single prize, and then it's going to be okay. But right now, it's not doing too much for them.
And you see Todd looking at the rolls that these Curlier actually evolve from. Yeah, like I mentioned earlier with the decision, do I rare candy on the bench, to evolve on the active, do I use the Gardevoir EX or the Shining Arcana Gardevoir or Witch? These rolls might be important, like maybe one of those rolls might be important in like the very last turn, so Todd just wants to make sure which rolls do I actually move to the discard pile to be super routed back, to be searched on the bench. Yeah, mirror matches, this is what it's all about. These very, very little decisions, but both of these players know exactly what these decisions are because they are masters of their own deck, which is also their opponent's deck. And this is what makes mirror matches so exciting.
Yeah, this is what's fun about mirror matches. Some mirror matches, as you've said, David, it's kind of, whoever sets up first wins. That is not the case here. It's very much a case of who's making what decisions, which Pokemon is being KO'd, where's the damage, where's the energy. And Gardevoir is a deck with a bunch of options. You've got at least 3 legitimate attacks, or 4 actually when you include Zacian and Gardevoir EX. So you've got at least 4 proper attackers for doing decent damage. You've got, the whole where do you put the energy, where do you put the damage with Gardevoir EX. When you're moving with Cresselia, you've got who you're actually going to be going ahead and KOing. There is a lot of stuff going on here, which is, it's very, very awkward to keep track of, but the way Todd is playing here makes me think he's probably got a handle on it. Also worth noting, I don't think we've actually said this, David, so let me say it now. We moved to 75 minutes.
Yes.
So previously we were playing 50 minutes best of 3. Because we moved into single elimination top cut, we are now in 75 minutes best of 3. So the key number we're looking at here is 50.
Yeah.
Once we hit 50 minutes, we haven't necessarily got enough time for a full best of 3, assuming an average of 25 minutes a game.
And here we see a very strong collapse stadium, allowing Victor to just remove his own Mew, for example, which is probably the choice here, but forcing Tor to discard one of the very important Pokemon. There's like no, I don't think there is not really a choice here. You just have to discard one of your Curliers. Yeah, so for Victor, getting rid of one of those Mirage-stepped Curliers, a very strong play as we see a collapse stadium coming down, and Victor just attaching energy to the Shining Arcana, Gardevoir with the Brainwave attack, and also using a boss's order on the bench Gardevoir, just eyeing down the options. Of course, you're choosing the one with the reverse energy because that is definitely able to take a one-hit knockout. However, well, the active Gardevoir already has 40 damage, 100 left, so another Brainwave would be fine with or without the reversal energy.
Yeah, sounds good to me. We have a couple of updates from the other games. Azul and Dion are going to game 3, and Shoichi has won one game up against Michael Pramwat in one of the other top 8 games. As we get any other updates, we will forward them on. So Victor here has taken the last, taken 2 prizes, taken prizes on his last 2 turns. Tord goes and pops that Cresselia into the active, and now the question is, does he just kind of want to repeat the trick? There's options here. You could KO a Routes on the bench using that Cresselia. That is an option. Or you could potentially go after a big KO on your opponent's Gardevoir and really leave Victor with just the EX. And I like that plan because there's no other... The Gardevoir EX doesn't draw cards. It just gets energy. So you're going to be hurting Victor's draw engine there. Going to be left with just that Radiant Greninja and then whatever else he can evolve into next turn. Tord is definitely ahead in terms of, evolving up these Routes and Curlier. So I like the idea of trying to get that KO on the Gardevoir. You're going to need to do 100 damage. It is actually possible using Cresselia. You can do it by moving damage, but we'll probably just see the free energy attack from Cresselia here. Do 110, get the KO.
Yeah, Lunar Blast is definitely a great option. Kind of forces your opponent, if they don't use a boss's order, they have to attack with some like weird Pokemon, weird choice. Also combined with the Iono, there is only Radiant Greninja, and there are already a lot of energy cards in Victor's discard pile. There is a good chance that he will not draw into one, potentially leaving him completely out of options, except for the Cresselia, which is already in play. So you just need attached energy cards, as we see Tord after the Iono playing a Super Rod, getting back a Curlier, one of the Gardevoirs, and also the Zacian V.
Tord only plays one Zacian V, so getting this back is basically saying, I want this as an option later on. Zacian V, if you accelerate a whole bunch of energy with Gardevoir EX onto Zacian, it builds up pretty quickly. It's actually the exact same attack as a single prize Gardevoir, but the difference is it's got a lot more HP, so you can accelerate a lot more energy onto it from Gardevoir EX before it's, because basically you're not allowed to KO with Gardevoir EX's ability. So you can go and put 6 energy onto your Gardevoir, but I think, is it 9 or 10 energy you can put onto Zacian? It's a lot.
10 energy cards, yes.
10 energy you can put onto Zacian.
That's
straight
all energy there are. And Zacian is also very nice in the mirror match just because you can see here, Victor tried to take a knockout on the Brainwave Gardevoir. Tord is now trying to take a knockout on the Brainwave Gardevoir. You're just trying to trade your Gardevoirs for the opponent's Gardevoirs. And then for the very last prize card, you can just use your Zacian. And for the very last prize card, trying to get another Gardevoir might be very difficult, as we see one energy card being attached to Cresselia, Lunar Blast now being exactly enough to take the knockout on Gardevoir, evening the prize trade for Tord.
Yeah, absolutely. We see Cresselia taking the KO with Lunar Blast there. Very nicely done. And now Victor's in a bit of an awkward situation. He doesn't have any of the Brainwave Gardevoir and doesn't have any Refinement Curlier. So we basically are stuck with Greninja, but we do have a level ball here. No prizes for guessing. Well, I'm assuming it's a Refinement Curlier. Yes, it is a Refinement Curlier. So yeah, that's going to allow him to draw 2 more cards.
And also the Fog Crystal to get a potentially basic Pokemon or a basic energy card, depending on what he prioritizes going for the Rousey. And now you see this Rousey is very important because this Rousey only has 60 HP, which means it has, you need 1 energy less, 1 damage count, like 2 damage counter less to take a knockout with Cresselia, for example. So in the mirror match, this Rousey makes like a very, very, very small difference. But it's important enough to spend attention to that play as well. Victor, of course, has the option to also counter the opponent's Cresselia with Lunar Blast himself, or just get a bunch of damage and take a knockout on the bench to Ralts or Curlier.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point there, David. So we see the Iono coming down here. Both players are going to shuffle their hand, pop them on the bottom of their deck, and then they get to draw a number of cards equal to their remaining prizes, which is 4 for both players. So both players trying a little bit of disruption. The thing is, Tord has got a Refinement Curlier, he's got the single prize Gardevoir, he's got, at least 4 extra cards he's going to be seeing next turn. So that is a big advantage, and it looks like, is he going to be attacking with Gardevoir EX? No, can't be.
We're going to see a retreat, and now it's just interesting to see, will we see Moonglow Reverse or Lunar Blast? energy attachment on the bench. Yeah, this is a very good sign that we are going to see Moonglow reverse here. Yeah, 80 damage, and you can just take a knockout on a Curlia from the bench. This still leaves the Tort's Cresselia active now, with already has damage, and now Tort can also just use Moonglow reverse. Tort was a little bit ahead with the setup, but Victor took the first prize card, and this matchup is, yeah, just kind of a prize trade. So Tort really has to plan ahead now. Well, Victor Tort can definitely take one prize, one way or the other this turn, and Victor can take one prize. Victor's only down to 2, so Tort then has to make sure that his own Gardevoir EX does not get knocked out. Just has to be aware of it. Seems definitely possible. And then Tort also needs to take a knockout on Gardevoir EX from Victor's side, because if that does not happen, they just trade 1 for 1 because Victor took the first prize card. Victor would win this game.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now, yeah, this is the strategy, and now we have to see, will Tort be able to pull through, or will Victor come out on top?
Yeah, that's the thing. In the mirror match, taking the first prize could be absolutely huge, because here they are trading 1 for 1. So if you take the first prize, if you don't stop, if you manage a prize every single turn, you will win the game, like every single time, because you took the first prize and then you kept going. There's no way around it. There's no mucking about. You take the first prize, you keep going, you win the game. Like I say, basically every time, and that's very, very important here. So Tord needs to wait to kind of swing it back to him, whether that's stopping Victor taking a prize, whether that's, I mean, the ideal here would be knocking out the Gardevoir EX and hoping Victor plays another 2-prize Pokemon, but I don't think that's terribly likely on either count, unfortunately.
Exactly.
So, I mean, I think Tord has to just kind of keep going. He needs to keep doing what he's doing, but the problem is,
yeah,
he needs to stop Victor taking a prize, and I'm not sure where we are. You know, we're seeing just a repeat here. We're going to see free energy going to free bench Pokemon. We're going to see Cresselia moving the energy to the Curlia on the bench. That's going to get KO'd. Tord's going to get out to free prizes. But then Victor's going to do the same thing to Tord's Curlia next turn.
Yeah, and Tord now has to prepare what will happen once Victor goes down to 2 prize cards. He needs to make as sure as possible that there is no way for Victor to take a boss's orders knockout on Gardevoir EX. Because, yeah, if you still have the option to use Zacian, right? And Victor didn't use the Zacian yet. Which means, yeah, for Tord it's a uphill battle. There might be like a very well-timed Ion on Tord's side, might turn this game around. And then there's also the possibility, yeah, for boss order on Tord's side as well. This is very difficult to maneuver. Victor is definitely sitting in the driver's seat in this game right now. But Tord is still a little bit up on the board state, I think. So let's see what we see here. It's a Super Rod from Victor, just recycling Curlia, recycling Shining Arcana Gardevoir. Here we see a consideration which card actually going to go back to the deck. We see 2 Rolls and the Shining Arcana Gardevoir.
Yeah, very nice with that one. And I mean, I'm kind of thinking, is there a world in which Tord just leaves Curlia behind? And obviously it's too late now, but could you have gone into that Gardevoir to, you know, if there was a single prize Gardevoir remaining, to potentially cut off that Cresselia play, force your opponent into something else? Now, I don't know if Tord had the resources to actually pull that off, but that's kind of one way I'm looking here, because my worry for Tord is that he's doing everything right and he's taking prizes on his turn, but, you know, Victor's in a good position, and Victor could next turn.
Oh, Temple of Sinnoh.
Oh, I like Temple of Sinnoh. It basically, what he's doing here, it turns off reversal energy. It makes it into a single colorless energy. So with Victor going up on prizes, he's going, Tord can take advantage of reversal energy. Let's play Temple of Sinnoh to make sure Tord isn't able to do so.
And here we see the Zacian V entering the bench. This is a very, very strong card. We talked about it earlier. The Zacian V, if you attach all of your psychic energies to it, you're able to take a 1-hit knockout on Gardevoir EX. Victor, I'm pretty sure, already played 2 Super Rod, and there are only 2 Super Rods in his deck, so he knows, well, if I discard the Zacian V, then I have no option anymore for this play, and this is exactly the play that can win me the game. So I just have to put it on the bench, just hope that Tord is not able to follow up with the boss's order. But this just opens the door for Tord to come in with the boss's order himself to turn the prize trade around again. The Temple of Sinnoh, also very interesting here. prevents the effect of reversal energy. So with this one card, he made it a little bit harder for Todd, who already discarded his Lost Vacuum earlier as well. So I'm not 100% sure. I think the Collapse Stadium on Todd's side is still somewhere in his deck. This turn here, I think this turn from Victor is basically going to decide the whole match.
Yeah, that Zacian seems to be absolutely crucial at the moment. Now, this is an interesting one. So we have got the Gardevoir into the active here, and actually there is very
four
few
cards. Yeah.
We are close to the end of this game. I think that's a fair statement to make. Victor, I mean, at the moment it seems like you KO the Cresselia, and then next turn you KO with the Zacian onto a Gardevoir EX, and that's it. That's game. And
yeah. Using Gardevoir EX here is actually very nice because if Tor takes a one-hit knockout with Zacian V, then Victor doesn't need a boss anymore, just need the Gardevoir, and then can take the revenge knockout and win the game this way. So yeah, attacking with Gardevoir here, not too bad. And Tor now basically just needs to get enough energy cards on the Shining Arcana Gardevoir to see the deck up. Because now there is no boss needed anymore, Todd can follow this up also with a Iono.
Yes.
So now for Todd, all of this game is basically depending on this turn right here.
This is absolutely crucial, and I agree with you. This is going to be the turn that decides the game. We've got essentially Todd needs to take the KO here while disrupting Victor, because the good news is this is the only Gardevoir EX. So Victor cannot just use Gardevoir EX to pile a bunch of energy onto Zacian if there is no Gardevoir EX in play. So this doesn't just get toward 2 prizes and then, you know, 1 prize for the victory. It turns off the engine for Victor. It would, however, turn on reversal energy.
Oh, we see an energy card with the Shining Arcana now, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the Shining Arcana. I think Todd needs 7 energy cards, if I'm not mistaken, 7 energy to take the knockout with Brainwave, if I'm not mistaken. 7 energy times 3, that's 210. You go to, with your base damage, to 270. That's exactly the amount of HP the Gardevoir EX and the active spot has. So Todd just needs to play Collapse Stadium, attach reversal energy, 1 more energy to take the knockout with the Gardevoir, and then Victor needs a lot to win this game. Boss's Order and Gardevoir, and also all the energy cards needed.
Yeah, I checked your maths on that one, David. That was absolutely perfect. So it's not in his deck.
There are 4. What is not in the deck?
Collapse Stadium.
It is in his hand, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, it's in his hand. Yeah. Okay, that's
Todd
fine.
just needs to make sure that he knows everything, that he has all the information, that everything is perfect.
Oh, no, you're right. I see it in his hand there. The gold version of Collapse Stadium is absolutely in his hand. And he's got the... Yeah, so I think he's got the KO here. I think you're right on that one, David.
There's also the boss's orders. Well, yeah. If Todd wants to take the knockout, he can. Let's see. Todd definitely is much better at this matchup than any of us, potentially anyone else in the whole world right now, as we see a Super Rod. Maybe even just putting some energy cards back, which you can then use to retreat, for example, without putting yourself on damage. We even see the Mew. Oh, very interesting choice here, yeah.
I mean, I like the idea of Mew. Mew is your kind of emergency. If I can get it in and out the active, I can just do something here. I can draw some extra cards. It may well not end up doing anything, but it's there as an extra option if it is needed. I rather suspect it's not going to do very much here, honestly. I do think it's going to be a case of just KO here and kind of hope. So it's actually Artisan.
Oh, Artisan. Oh, yeah, nice. Very nice.
Yeah,
playing Artisan is actually better because Collapse Stadium would allow your opponent to discard one of their bench Pokemon, which, like, at this point, all of them are a little bit of a liability. So Victor could just decide, which bench Pokemon do I not want anymore, and just put it down and just discard it. Yeah, having the Artisan is much better. I just wasn't really aware that this was still an option for Todd. And now Todd got rid of the stadium, reactivates reverse energy. Now just needs to make sure that the math checks out, and it seems like there is still a boss's order in consideration.
Yeah, I think you have to KO the Gardevoir EX here. Is there an Iono? I don't think there still is, unfortunately.
Oh, Gardevoir, another Shining Arcana coming down. This allows you to attach an energy card. If you hit it, he did shuffle 1 back with the Super Rod, but not hit it. Yeah. Radiant Greninja also one possibility to get the last few cards here.
Does look like he's eyeing up the boss's orders here. Would be able to get the KO on the Zacian there.
Yeah, getting rid of the Zacian means that it's completely... oh, Greninja. Yeah, Todd is much better than both of us, because this is not a play I anticipated.
Oh, I told you, every time I watch Tor play Pokemon, I get better at Pokemon.
Yes.
I get smarter every time. So he's gone for something we were not looking for. He's gone for the Radiant Greninja here. Just trying to... because that's the only draw on Victor's side of the board at this stage.
But I mean, Radiant Greninja...
oh, there's one refinement.
You cannot attach energy cards from Radiant Greninja, so there's some decks that can, like, keep it in the active spot, but I think at this point... well, let's see. Todd set up... so what you could see with the Paul pad, Todd set up his board in a way that it's impossible to not draw the boss's orders next turn. And the reverse energy card is still an option for Todd, as we see a retreat for Cresselia.
I love this.
Oh.
Basically, Todd is saying, I'm pretty sure you can't get Greninja out the active, so I can use Cresselia to take a bench KO, and then you don't get an attack next turn, and then I can use boss's orders to take my last 2 prizes next turn. If this works, this basically proves everything you said about mirror matches, David.
Yes.
Because this is a phenomenal play. Now, Greninja only has a retreat cost of 1.
Yes.
And Victor has an energy in hand.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not entirely sure.
Well, he would also need a boss's orders, remember, because David, it sort of does have a single prize Pokemon in the active. So, but here the Zacian is in play, the Gardevoir EX is in play, and he's got an energy to retreat the Greninja. So he is going to be able to pivot the Greninja out. Now, it looks like the Routes gets KO'd here, and now...
yeah, so one important thing with the boss's order, maybe this is a reason behind it, is because now the Gardevoir EX is on the bench, so it cannot retreat, and it's not knocked out. So the energy cards have to stay on the Gardevoir,
yes,
which means that Victor cannot attach just a bunch of energy cards to the Zacian and take the one-hit knockout. So in order to take the knockout on... you need 8 energy cards, right?
Yes.
To take the knockout on Gardevoir EX on the bench. So, but I'm not even 100% sure now if Victor even has the boss's orders, right?
I don't think he's got the boss's orders. I've not seen it in his hand.
Refinements, no deck cards left.
If he's not got boss's orders, this game is over.
Exactly.
Because there's no way he's taking a 2-prize knockout other than that, and I'm looking through his hand, I'm not seeing a boss's orders. He's going to be able to get an attack off this turn. Tor's not getting another turn, unless Victor... I'm not seeing any recovery cards. Victor is going to deck out before his next turn.
There is no boss's order. Oh, there's Iono, okay.
Okay.
But yeah, like I said, Todd set up his deck in a way that it's now completely impossible for Todd not to have the boss's orders.
Yeah.
And now everyone knows, okay, Victor has no boss's orders left himself, which is something, yeah, I completely missed. Of course, we as a casters, we cannot look at the discard pile of the players, so it's always a little bit kind of weird to figure out like resource plays like we see right here. Yeah, amazing play by Todd, showing the world again that he is just built differently.
Well, he's got access to 4 cards. He's going to have draw a card for his turn. Then he's got 2 cards with the Gardevoir. Then potentially another 2 cards with the Greninja. So he's going to be drawing a lot here. And this is... wait, does he even need boss's orders here?
I think now just retreat, reversal energy, that should be fine, right?
There is boss's orders onto the Zacian. It's going to come up, and now we're going to see the retreat into Gardevoir. Reversal energy is on board, but we can just attach a bunch with Gardevoir and Tord. Is it official? Is it official? It's official. Tord goes up 1-0 in game 1. Attaches a bunch of energy. I don't think you even need a reversal energy in the end. Takes the KO.
I just realized that Todd played this game exactly in a way where he didn't need to even reveal that there is another reversal energy card in his list. And I'm not 100% sure that Victor is actually aware of it. So, like, Todd played in a very weird way because he was 100% sure. Like, the moment he played the boss's order, he knew he was going to win, right? Unless Victor plays like a completely weird list that is like out of this world. But he also played in a way where he doesn't reveal like unnecessary information, which is a play that is actually very rare in the trading card game, but very, very rarely having this weird information in the best of 3 game can win you games. It's also one of the reasons why a lot of people advise to always play the same languages of all of your cards, always play the same artwork of all of your cards, because otherwise in a best of 3, for example, you play a German reverse with energy 1, and then you play an English reverse energy in game 2, and your opponent's like, wait, this is a different reverse energy from game 1, so I know you definitely have another one somewhere.
Yes.
This is also very interesting. Yeah, great plays. There is so much going on in this match. As we go into game 2, this was a very long game 1.
Yeah, we do have some updates for you. This is actually the final top 8 game remaining. So Azul Garcia Griego has advanced and will face Vance in top 4. So one of our top 4 games is already set. It is Vance against Azul, and Michael Pramwat has advanced into top 4. He will play the winner of this game. So, you know, at the moment, it looks like we might have our Tord Pram top 4, and oh, it's going to be awkward, you know. Do we want to put Tord on stream 2 games in a row? Maybe not. Do we want to miss a Tord versus Pram top 4? Maybe not.
Yeah, you're right. This is one of the best top 8. Like, we have so many great players here at the World Championship. Every year at the World Championship, we have some veterans playing against some newcomers. And if Tord wins, this top 4 will have 3 of the best players like historically in the game.
I think Azul Garcia Griego, Tord Reklev, and Michael Pramwat. Like, players like to do it. It's something I always like seeing. Players like to do drafts where, you know, a friendly competition where they take it in turns to pick players they think are going to do well, and, you know, they score themselves. It's a fun thing to do with your friends, just basically a fun little prediction game of who you think is going to do well at the World Championships. And I can guarantee you, every group of friends that did a World Draft, those 3 players were off the board quickly. What have you seen, David?
Look at those prize cards. 2 rolls, 1 Curlier for each player. There was a Cresselia prize, which was so important, and also Tord starting with Mana Fee. Game 1, the prize cards were, I would say, almost irrelevant. Game 2 will revolve completely around Tord's prize cards, I think.
Yeah, I think it might well do. And you do not want to start Mana Fee, because we saw, you know, both players in game 1 using their bench to its fullest. You don't want Mana Fee. Mana Fee gives no value in this matchup. You cannot even use your God of War EX to accelerate energy onto it in order to power Cresselia, which was a play we saw a lot back in game 1. And now that's kind of sitting out there. And you know Victor's not going to KO it, because it is, you know, not to sound too mean to Mana Fee, it's a waste of a bench space. It is basically like a built-in collapsed stadium. It's a pointless Pokemon that's doing nothing for you and is stopping you playing a better Pokemon. It's not a good starter.
Yeah, it doesn't just stop you playing a better Pokemon, it's also one of these Pokemon where you cannot put damage on it, so it even makes your Cresselia much worse. I mean, not that you really would want to attach energy cards to your Manafi, because it can't really do anything other than retreating with it. And yeah, you usually do 80 damage, so it's not like the worst card in that perspective, but definitely not a card that you want to see in your opening hand in
and
this game.
Worth noting, I'm sorry, David, I've got to say, Tord only plays 1 Cresselia in his prize.
Yeah, pretty much everyone plays exactly 1 Cresselia.
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah, and the game kind of, like you saw game 1, it completely revolved around Cresselia. So this is a very good opportunity for Victor to turn this game around.
Yeah, it really is. Victor has prized his single reversal energy, but it's actually one of the bottom 2 prizes he's probably going to take first, so he'll probably have access to it. So prizes absolutely playing a role here. So Victor ends his turn with a Mew, with a Radiant Greninja, but only with a single Routes, which I don't think Tord is able to KO it, but that is something to watch for future turns. Tord is playing an Ultra Ball first of all, but this is going to be awkward. When Tord looks through his deck, he's going to see that he is in fact down a Route. He's going to see that he's down, 2 Routes. He's going to see that he's down a Curlier, and he's going to see that his only Cresselia is prized. He's not going to be terribly happy about this. Like, his attackers are Gardevoir and Cresselia, and maybe Zacian at the end of the game. So he's gone basically from 5 down to 3 here. And I think at this stage, if I'm Tord, you've kind of got to go for a fairly aggressive Mirage skip here, I think. Because that's the only way you're going to get enough Cresselia out, given that 2 of your Routes are prized.
Curlier out. Yes, exactly. This game will be very different. We saw in the earlier Swiss rounds where Tord played. Game 1 he played normally, then game 2 he just tried to be as quick as possible because he knew, well, I just want to have as much time left for game number 3. And this might be one of these situations where you're like, oh man, what's going on here, and just try to win a quick game. Hopefully, well, maybe your opponent draws poorly, right? We see Iono, probably also not something that Todd really wanted to do, seeing how, I would say, well, yeah, little the opening from Victor was. Yeah, Iono also, yeah, the Forest Sealstone on the Minion is a cool play, actually.
It's a very cool play. Of course, Forest Seals don't let you search any card, but it is one of these tools that has to be attached to a Pokemon V. And, you know, in most of these Mew decks, you have one Luminion and you have one Zacian. So, you know, if you want to have access to it, that's not too bad. And Todd's got it turn 1. And, I mean, he's actually got the Battle VIP Pass in hand. So, I'm not sure he's going to be able to get enough value out of it for Battle VIP Pass. But there's definitely, you know, if not this turn, then later on, he is going to be able to really make use of that Forest Seal Stone. Not this term, but certainly in the future.
Yeah, Battle VIP Pass gets all those routes from the deck, right?
He's got at least one in hand, so...
Oh, there's some...
He's got one in hand, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So he's only got one actually left in the deck.
Yeah, going for the Mew seems a little bit risky, because then you have Manafi, Radiant Greninja, Luminion. Is this a water deck? Am I looking right? Did I forget my glasses?
I'm not sure Mirage Step even works here, actually, because has he got the bench space for Mirage Step?
Yeah, I mean, you can put a few Pokemon. Todd might be thinking about just go like as aggressive as you can and maybe just win the game that way. Oh yeah, the very difficult situation here.
He really seems to be eyeing up that Mew, and yeah, it does come down. That's 5 out of your 6 Pokemon. There is one more bench space for the second route, but this is the problem with all of these support Pokemon and these tech Pokemon. At some point, you've got to get your actual Pokemon down. The ones that are going to be attacking, the ones that are going to be, you know, really making a difference. They are the Pokemon you need in play sometimes. And, you know, as it stands at the moment, Tord is in a, you know, good position in terms of support Pokemon, but he's got one routes down and the other one in his hand.
Oh, yeah, this hand is not looking amazing, but now you have the retreat for Mew, Mysterious Tail. Yeah, there's a Curlier in Todd's hand. At this point, it doesn't even really matter to have like the Mirage Step, right? Like,
no,
there's no
not
way
enough bench space
to put them on the bench. As we see a level ball hitting the hand, not being played right now.
No, that's going to be an option potentially next turn for another Curlier. That would be quite nice. I mean, he could go double Curlier turn 2. My issue with Tord's setup is what he's attacking with. Like, you basically, your only attackers are going to be your Gardevoir, but they're stage 2, and then you're missing a couple of routes, and it's awkward trying to just get your Gardevoir out to attack, and if you're attacking with Gardevoir, then you're not having your Curlier out using Refinement, and Tord's setup is excessively awkward, I think, and Victor's had a much easier time of it. You know, yes, there's only one route down at the moment, but there's none prized and plenty of bench space.
Yeah, Victor just going for a concealed card. I mean, if Tord is lucky, then Victor just doesn't get a lot of rolls. Yeah, but Victor probably also thought about that and was like, well, we'll just like show Tord all of my rolls. Yeah, he's a little bit just showing off. Look what I have, you don't have that.
Have you seen all of my routes?
Exactly, yeah, I have 3, you have 2. I win.
Oh, reminds me of winning a tournament with Mewtwo because it was new and not everyone had enough Mewtwo.
Yes. I remember that tournament very well.
Next Destinies. So we've got more routes out here. We've got 3 routes out at the moment. There is still bench space for a 4th if that is where Victor wants to go. We've got a big Professor's Research Sada coming down here. So that's 7 new cards. And the setups between these 2 players are starting to look very, very different indeed. So, I know we drew a couple of supporters there. We've got Niono, we've got a Professor's Research. I'm not seeing that much there. Now, he does have Cresselia in hand, so that might be something he's looking for. And I believe this is his second turn, is it not?
Yeah, I think there's one of the roles was already in play from last time, as we see a rare Candy. Victor, if he wants to go really aggressive, I think using Cresselia to take a knockout on rolls even is an option right now. Because
that's literally what I'm thinking.
Yeah, the rare Candy, so the rolls with a 60 HP and a memory skip already was in play. And we see the evolution.
There we go.
Do we have enough energy cards in the discard pile to pull off this move?
So we're going to do 1 retreat with Mew. We need free energy in the discard to make it work. We've got one. We've got loads.
Oh, yeah, that's it. That's enough.
It's easily enough.
Yeah, Victor just going for a very easy knockout with Moonglow reverse on the bench. Yeah, Curlier, Ralts, I will suppose. Putting Tor down to 1 Ralts, and I think now Tor just has to be very aggressive. There's still like, yeah, about half an hour left, so definitely enough time to finish 2 games, I think. So a little bit too early, in my opinion, for Tor to just concede. He can still try to just be like super aggressive with, for example, a Zacian. But yeah, let's see what Tor is actually going for.
I think you give it a turn or two, personally. I think you give it 1 or 2 turns, bearing in mind, you know, if we go 25 minutes per game, well, the first game went longer than 25 minutes, and we are coming up to 25 minutes remaining. So with the speed this game goes, with it being a Gardevoir mirror match, I think we are running out of time at this stage to actually have 3 full games. So if I'm Tord, and you know, I'm thinking, right, I'll give it a couple of turns, maybe I can go aggressive, you know, I've super rodded my routes back in, maybe I can go aggressive with a Zacian, maybe I can get a Gardevoir out, but I'm giving this a couple of turns, and then I'm thinking, I was let down this game, right? I had 2 routes prized, I started Manaphy, I had to use Luminion in order to get set up. This was a game that went about as bad as it could have gone. Let's go to game 3. I get to go first in game 3, huge in the mirror match, and I'm in a great position, you know, because I can't draw any worse than this. So I know comes down from Tord here. Both players are going to, well, Tord's going to get 6 cards, Victor's going to get 5. And if I'm Tord, I'm thinking, give it a couple of turns. This is not going his way, and game 3 has to be better, has to be.
Yeah, we see the concealed cards from Tord's side now. There's a rare candy, but there's no way to get a Curlier as of now, right now, Curlier or the Gardevoir. As of right now, as we see the Mysterious Tail going to grab an Ultra Ball. Now Tord has a choice. You can either go for easy Curlier, keep the rare candy for later. But this is definitely one of the easier Ultra Ball choices. 2 Battle VIP Pass. You still have to think about it a little bit, like maybe you just want to have energy cards in your discard pile, but I think there's enough there and you just want to have them for the later rounds. And the Gardevoir now becoming an option with the rare candy. In theory, in the move we sometimes see, you can just attach 2 energy cards to the Mew and then use Psyshock, but this just puts like unnecessary damage on Cresselia, which you don't really want to have because Moonglow reverse is still a threat, right?
Yes.
So this seems like there is not too much possible. Otherwise, in theory, you can also attack with Gardevoir EX and just try to be super aggressive early on in this game. At this point, I'm not 100% sure what the right play even is.
No, and one thing we need to remember here, of course, we don't need to finish the best of 3 here, which is probably why Tord, you know, is playing it out. I think were this Swiss, you know, where a tie was possible, I think we probably would already have seen a concession, but it's worth pointing out, this is top 8. We can't have a tie in top 8. We need to decide a winner. So if we go to game 3 and time is called, and it looks like I don't think we're going to see a conclusion within the time here. If we go to, you know, time and time is called, then it just comes down to, you know, +3 turns, and then who's winning the game?
Yeah. So I think Tord is just trying to be very aggressive early on. Now with the Gardevoir EX, either Victor is not able to get the knockout, perfect, you can just attack once more. If Victor is able to take the knockout, Tord could just answer with Ion or set up another Gardevoir EX and keep doing it. This is one of the ways to, kind of like control the speed of the game. As we see, Victor does not want to run into any problems here. Shining Arcana for 2 Curlier, very nice actually because there is a Ralts on the bench.
I don't even seen a Curlier yet this game, have we?
Not yet, no.
Victor's just
2 rare candies.
Just rare candied into his
And Tord also didn't play a Curlier yet, I think.
It's just, we're seeing it, you know, the whole point of Gardevoir is you can go through the Curlier and have that lovely refinement, but here we're just playing it like a traditional Stage 2 deck.
Oh, Collapse Stadium. I think Tord would be very happy to see that come into play. But Victor, is too smart to just put it down. There is the Brainwave. Gardevoir has 250 HP left, which means I think 6 energy cards.
That'd be 180, that would be 240, so no.
7
one more, 7 energy cards. Looks like we got there though. We are, in fact, looking at exactly 7 energy cards on Gardevoir here. That KOs of EX, and this is why we said in the first game, the EX's attack at the end of the game.
Yes.
And Tord had no real choice here. Tord didn't have a viable attacker. You know Tord didn't want to do that, but what we just saw was an excellent example of exactly why your EXs in this mirror match do not attack unless it's the last prize, or it's the end of the game and you've got a very specific plan, or you're desperate.
Yeah, and
because if you attack early, that happens.
Yeah, and Todd can't even take the knockout with Psy Shot, which would have been so nice. Just like, yeah, Todd doesn't catch any breaks this game. The Mew would have been a nice way to just take like an easy knockout here, but 10 damage short, so Todd needs to set up another attacker. I think, yeah, the Gardevoir was, the Cresselia was in the prize cards. It was not the one prize card. Todd drew, he got the Ultra Ball, yeah, he got that Ultra Ball from the prizes.
And now Tord has decided it's gone too far. Tord has decided we're not going to win this game. He is scooping up. He is conceding the game. Victor Manuel Garcia Montes wins game 2, and we are going to a deciding game 3. All the other top 4 games are finished. We have got the most possible Pokemon in top 4 here, David, and I am loving it. We are going to go to a game 3, and it's going to be interesting. Are we going to finish this game, or are we going to see it coming down to who's ahead when plus three turns have finished at the end of time?
Yeah, and I'm very sure all of the other top 4 contenders are watching this game very closely.
Course.
Both of them are very aware that this person who wins this game might be their next opponent or the opponent they face in the finals.
Yeah, well, I mean, Michael Pramwa already knows that, you know, he will be facing the winner of this game.
Yes.
It's a bracket, yeah, the bracket is fixed. There's no figuring out who you're going to face next. You know exactly who you are going to be facing. So Michael Pramwa, I mean, I think it was about 20 minutes ago that Michael Pramwa won his game. So he does have that advantage of, you know, a bit of an extra break and, you know, a bit of extra preparation time and just kind of sitting, chilling and having a drink. And that can actually be a big advantage.
Yes.
Playing slower decks is a lot more taxing than playing faster decks.
Yeah, this is true. And also, I mean, you already knew that he would play against Gardevoir. The main difference is just who is playing it, and the deck lists are not exactly the same like we already talked about. And I think this is also something that Michael will definitely be very interested in. Now, he can just watch this game and know exactly which cards are in the opponent's deck as we see this match going down to the wire here. 1-1. Todd Reklev against Victor Manuel Garcia Montes.
Yeah, and Victor, like we say, is not a player who's terribly well known. I think he said hasn't really had that kind of big finish yet, a regional win or things along those lines. I think it's fair to say, you know, top 8 of Worlds, probably better than a regional win. Putting that out there. So
yes,
this is already just a phenomenal achievement. But Victor's like, look, I've just won a game against Tord. I've got 20 minutes left. I can go forward to the top 4 of the World Championships. And let's not forget, you know, 4 of these decks over the free age divisions, we imagine they usually are printed as World decks. Players love having their deck printed as a Worlds deck. So, you know, win this, get into top 4, get into the final, be the only Gardevoir left standing. That is something I know a lot of players really want to see happen to their deck. Tord has prized the reversal energy, but he actually plays a second copy, unlike Victor, who only plays 1. So we are playing, and there's a proper mirror match, routes against routes.
Yeah, very nice prize cards for both players. Here we see Tord going first again, both players opening with rolls again, and Tord using a Battle VIP pass again. Yeah, I'm getting a deja vu from the first game.
Yeah, but you know, the good news is, compared to game 2, Tord's Cresselia not prized, no routes prized compared to 2. Tord's prizes this game are just so much better. Like, he's prized 1 of his 2 boss's orders and 1 of his 2 reversed energy. That's it. That's they're the worst prizes that Tord has actually got, and that is absolutely huge, because we saw that last game, I think we need to acknowledge the fact that prizes played a big role in the last game.
Yeah, it definitely did.
And the fact that Tord started Manaphy, which literally just took up a bench space and did nothing useful all game, that contributed. The fact that he had to play a Luminium because he wasn't drawing well enough, that contributed. Game 2 was a very bad situation for Tord. It's why I was talking about, you know, conceding a few minutes before Tord even did, because sometimes there are games which just aren't going in your favor. It's just not happening. So when you're in those games, when you're so far behind, sometimes it's just worth conceding and going to the next game. But from this Battle VIP pass, we start off with a second Rouse and a Radiant Greninja.
Yeah, this is very different from Game 1. Tord played Game 1 completely without Radiant Greninja at all, while Victor also chose Radiant Greninja from the first time. Might we be seeing here Tord actually copying his opponent's strategy? Unbelievable.
Maybe we see that. Maybe it's just a situation of different hands. Maybe
yeah, exactly.
In Game 1, Tord's hand was so good, he's like, Radiant Greninja, who needs it? But then he goes to Game 3 and he's like, yeah, my hand is not quite good enough.
It is not good. I've saw no supporter cards yet, also no other search card. Often you have like a nest ball, for example, you could have just retreated into a Mew, for example, and then use Mysterious Tail. Hopefully getting into another either an Ultra Ball for Dominion might have been an option, or just a Battle VIP pass to get more bench Pokemon. As we see now, the first deck search for Victor, of course, those top players, they want to make sure that they know exactly which cards are in their price card, which cards are on the price.
Yeah, and it's good news for Victor. I mean, actually, he's got his Manaphy prize, and it's right at the top. It's going to be one of the last prizes taken.
Exactly where you want your Manaphy to be, as far away from your hand as possible.
So we do see an Ultra Ball here. It is discarding a Gardevoir EX, which isn't a particularly big issue. He plays 2 Gardevoir EX, as does basically everyone in these decks. And honestly, it's not, oh, wait. No, he does play 2. They're just different artworks. Yes. Yeah, they're listed differently because they're different artworks. So it's something that you never really want a second one, especially in this matchup. One will do fine. So here we see a concealed card. Victor's going to draw a couple of extra cards here. And it's a Battle VIP pass. This is his first turn, right?
Yes, exactly.
That's a good one to draw of concealed cards.
Yeah, but Victor's hand also looking not too amazing. I also didn't see a supporter card there. I think also no energy cards left as well. So Victor, yeah, exactly. There's even another route. So you don't necessarily need the Battle VIP pass now, but you would have probably been much happier for a supporter card. As we see one Ralts hitting the bench, and then Victor considering what else to get. As we see a Mew, good choice here. Also on top of that, thinning out your deck, you have the Mysterious Tail for later to maybe get into a Level Ball, which might get you a Curlier, which draws you more cards, supporter card that Victor desperately needs. As we see the turn moving over to Tord, who now hopefully gets going.
He's got an energy. Now, he does have Rare Candy in his hand. I think he might even have 2 Rare Candy in his hand. So this concealed card could be big. If he hits a Gardevoir or a Curlier or somewhere to grab it, he's got an Ultra Ball.
All right.
So that's going to be brilliant. He could even just go Ultra Ball in Rare Candy into the Brainwave Curlier. That would absolutely be an option here. Or he could go for Curlier and use Refinement.
And Luminion. This is also still an option here.
Luminion, absolutely an option. I'm wondering if it's possible to get a KO on that active routes here. It is possible with that with the Gardevoir. So yeah, it is possible, but I think you'd need Gardevoir EX as well in order to. Oh, we got the Curlier there.
This is a Mirage Step Curlier, and we see.
Yeah, I like this.
The card that both of us really love, Mirage Step Curlier, such a game changer. Now Mirage Step Curlier, because there was already an energy attached to the active Rose, is able to get the Refinement Curlier in play, and then Tord can use the Refinement Curliers to get the deck. Did he use Shining Arcana? I hope so.
I don't remember him using Shining Arcana, I'll be honest with you. I could have missed it.
Yes.
But he hasn't. Tord's been pretty good at kind of turning his Pokemon when he's used the ability, and he hasn't turned the Gardevoir there. So I think he might have not used the ability. I could be wrong about that.
Yeah, I think so too, but well, let's not focus about that.
I mean, the good thing about Mirage Step, here's what I love about Mirage Step. Let's say Tord's hand is absolute unplayable garbage.
Yes.
Well, he's got 3 Curlier down now, and 3 Refinement, which is 6 extra cards next turn. So we don't need to know anything about Tord's hand to know next turn is probably going to be a good turn, because that Mirage Step has got him 6 extra cards next turn, plus any of those can evolve up into Gardevoir, and that is why Mirage Step is so gosh darn good here, because it's not just getting you your Curlier, Your Curlier are your draw engine, so it's also getting you that. So straight off the bat, that one Mirage Step, again, being absolutely crucial, just setting you up perfectly in this game. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, and you get there without using any of your consistency cards, like you see in Towards Your Slipper. There's one Battle VIP pass and an Ultra Ball, that's basically it. Yeah, Victor is already burning through a lot of his consistency resources, but the board state doesn't look as nice as Todd's. So as long as Victor's not taking a knockout here, this might be the game where Todd has even an easy round. As we see Victor using a reverse energy to retreat into Mew. This means there is no attack coming off. Yeah, this is a very, very bad situation for Victor to be in, because game one, he was the one person applying pressure and he almost made it, but yeah, Todd was able to win even from coming behind. But now with this play, Victor opens the possibility for Todd to just be the aggressor, and with a setup like this seems like an amazing option here.
Yeah, I absolutely love this for Tor. This is absolutely fantastic. He is in a great position with a really good setup, and it looks like that is the end of Victor's turn. He does pass over to Tord. He doesn't take a prize, so Tord has got the better setup. It really looks like Tord is going to be taking the first prize here, but not before he's used refinement over, discarding a rare candy with refinement. It does nothing now. Now we've got concealed cards. Tord is going to be seeing 8 extra cards this turn, in addition to the one he drew for turn. So this is just wonderful. Now we see a level ball coming down. It's just going to be filling the deck at this stage. There's no bench Pokemon, and honestly, this is probably going to be refinement fuel. So yeah, Tord is going to have access to basically anything he wants here. He's going to be taking the first prize, and then it's probably just going to be exactly kind of like a mirror of what we saw in game one. But Tord is going to be the one on the offensive, and it's going to be Victor who's going to have to find some weird, strange, awkward way to get around what Tord is doing.
Yeah, I think Tord's list is just better equipped to be the one person in the mirror match coming from behind a little bit. In Victor's list, not because you don't have the Mirage Step, you don't have the like 2 reverse energy cards, for example. As we see Tord's, the order of operations, marvelous. We see level ball. Tord already, I think, drew into the Gardevoir EX, so there is definitely the possibility for an attack coming off here. Gardevoir also in play already. Now the question just is, which way do you want to take the knockout on Mew? Unfortunately, this time, Curlier is not an option because the bench is already full.
Yeah, unfortunately it is. I mean, if that's the worst thing in this game for Tord, I think he's going to be doing all right. What I want to know is how many people watching this game right now have picked out their Gardevoir deck, taken out one of the refinement Curliers, and just slipped in a Mirage Step instead while they're watching this game going, you know what, Tord has convinced us. Because seriously, every time we've had Gardevoir on stream with Mirage Step, it has made a huge difference to the game. It has been, and bearing in mind the game Tord lost so far on this set was the game he didn't use Mirage Step. It has been an absolute game changer, not just in this match, but in all 3 of the Gardevoir games you and I have done on stream this weekend. It has been absolutely huge. Yeah,
and also the Gardevoir X now coming down. Of course, you evolve the Mirage Step curl here because you want to keep as many refinements option for you in the future as you would like. Tord now taking a knockout, the first knockout in this game on Rolls, drawing the boss's orders from the prize cards, which is also a very important card if you're just an aggressor in a match like this, because you can just choose which Pokemon you want to take the knockout on, which is very powerful in this situation here.
Yeah, being able to hurt your opponent's setup, kind of like we saw in game one with Cresselia, being able to essentially choose whichever Pokemon to move the damage onto and get the KO. We see a similar thing here with Gardevoir, just, moving, essentially, being able to use boss's orders to pick and choose. And I am not loving Victor's setup. 1 Refinement Curlier, 1 Radiant Greninja, obviously it's Radiant Pokemon, and 2 routes that are yet to evolve. Tord has got 3 Refinement Curlier, and the Radiant Greninja, and the Gardevoir, and there's nothing superfluous there. There's no Manaphy, there's no Luminion, there's no Pokemon that are sitting on the bench not pulling their weight every single turn. Tord is getting, value out of every Pokemon every turn here, and it looks like it is going to be making a big difference in this particular matchup.
Yeah, having damage on the Gardevoir now, it only has 8 HP left, so definitely very easy for Victor to take a knockout with, for example, Cresselia, or just a single reversal energy. But even if you take the knockout, you still need the Gardevoir EX. Victor only has one refinement available to him. In the situation that you're seeing currently, no one is doing anything because unfortunately Todd's card that he drew from the prize cards fell down, and they are trying to figure out a good way to get this card back because yeah, Todd is not allowed to stand up because of the headset, so he doesn't hear us. So this is the reason. Nothing crazy happening here, just a little nuisance, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately these things do happen. It's dice usually. You roll the die and then it goes off the table and someone has to scrabble for it. I've been lucky enough in some of the caster showdowns. Did one with Chip over at Oceania Internationals. One, just in case anyone's wondering, get that on the record. It's fun playing at these tables, but it is a very different experience. Having that headset, having the white noise being pumped in, and those tables are sneaky big. They are deceptively large tables when you sit down at them, which is something you don't realize when you're, sitting at home watching it.
You can see the camera shaking. There are a lot of people walking around trying to find that car. There are black sleeves on the black floor, and Todd is not allowed to move. So it seems like the card in question, which I think was the boss's order that Todd took from the prize cards, did find the way back into the hand where it belongs. I'm very sure that this will result in a little bit of extra time, but yeah, those players should not be distracted by small things like this, as we see Victor opening his turn with a Radiant Greninja concealed cards for Iono and Liverpool.
Yeah, he just needs to make sure here. Victor really needs a KO this turn. Now, if he gets the Gardevoir EX, he could start playing around with Cresselia shenanigans, but it's not going to be as easy as it was back in game one, because the first Cresselia shenanigan we see, we are going to see Gardevoir just KO it, smack it out of the way and go, no, we're not doing that this game. That was game one, we're in game three. We could see a KO on the Gardevoir with a free energy Cresselia, but again, that would revolve around having a Gardevoir EX. In fact, any decent attack Victor's pulling off this turn is going to rely on having a Gardevoir EX.
Yeah, Victor now also playing the level ball, looking very nice for him. Or he's just missing the Gardevoirs, right? Like, it's so difficult if your opponent is just going first and then turn 3 just completely having such an explosive start with 2 Gardevoirs in play while you're still sitting there with your Curlias. Of course, the Curlia that you evolve now, you cannot use a Gardevoir on that spot. You would need a rare candy for that, but that's not an option anymore because now there are no Rowls in play. So for Victor, he really needs Cresselia, I think.
Yeah, I think Cresselia needs to be the attacker here. Now, either of Cresselia's attacks would work, but they would both rely on having a Gardevoir EX in play. Now, we have seen 2 refinement, we've seen all of the refinements, and we've seen the concealed cards. We've seen 8 extra cards for Victor. So, and he does have that Gardevoir then coming off of, there's an Ultra Ball in the discard.
And so Victor can evolve the Curlia that is on the very left of the bench.
Yes, because that was down last turn. So that is going to be the Gardevoir. And I think we're going to see, goes the Cresselia.
The Cresselia I was wondering, why don't you search for the Cresselia? It was already in the hand, as we see Victor having exactly the response that is needed here in this situation. Playing Iono, putting Todd's very big hand on the bottom of his deck. And Todd should be very careful to remember exactly which cards those are, because he will not draw onto them now with refinement, which a little bit changes your choices later on, right? Like sometimes you want to shuffle the deck because you really need one of the cards that is on the bottom of the deck to play like a card that you usually wouldn't play if no Iono was played, right? And this is a very interesting interaction with these cards like Iono, as we see 2 energy cards being attached to the Curlia, retreat into Cresselia, attach some energy, as we see probably Moonglow reverse.
Yeah, we are going to see a Moonglow reverse here. It's going to be doing 80 damage, which would actually be enough to KO the Gardevoir if you wanted to. It's got exactly 80 HP remaining. I personally like KOing the Gardevoir because otherwise it's going to KO you back. Make Todd work. And there we go. KO on the Gardevoir. Had to be the choice.
Very good shot.
And there might have been an Iona, but bear in mind, Todd can see an extra 8 cards here. He got 6 off of the Iono, plus he's going to draw a card for turn, plus he's going to get 6 from Refinement, plus he's going to get 2 from concealed cards. So let's not be thinking that Tord's, you know, got a bad... And Tord actually has a terrible hand. He drew 2 Battle VIP pass and a rare candy and a pal pad and something else. Oh, and a... the psychic thing that you said for energy or...
Fog Crystal.
Fog Crystal, thank you. That's what he drew off the Iono, not cards he wants here.
But this is nice because you can just use Refinement, get rid of those cards that you don't want anyways, and you draw more cards, as we see the first Refinement coming down with a level ball Artisan. I mean, you could use Artisan to counter Cresselia. Cresselia is now still a nice option because Tord can just use one card that is one Pokemon that is not a Gardevoir to take a prize card while also getting rid of one of the Cresselias on Victor's bench. The question is only how do you take the energy cards from here, right?
Yeah, that is an important question. I mean, there are a couple of Curlier down there that look, you know, like there might be delicious snacks for that Cresselia. That would be an option. There's no obvious response KO on the Cresselia for Victor. We could be seeing a Cresselia off, just like we saw in the first game. But huge difference, Tord Reklev initiated the prize trade this game. Now this is also very important with time running down. We have to decide a winner. We're in top cut of the World Championships. So if time, you know, runs out and we get to +3 turns, it's going to end up being who's ahead on prizes. Well, if you take the first prize and you keep just going with single prizes, that could well end up being the deciding factor. One fun little thing, if we do get that far, if you're essentially the last turn and you're down by 1 prize, you can go all out to get a KO on a 2-prize Gardevoir EX and actually jump ahead in the prize race at the very last moment, which is something I would expect both players trying to see. But we're 6 minutes and 3 turns away from that yet. Just wanted to get that in there.
And here we see the Fog Crystal now allowing Tord to search for the Cresselia here. There are enough energy cards in the discard pile to open a Moonglow reverse play. Something Tord definitely wants to do because he doesn't want to have Curlier or Gardevoir active now, and also it's a very easy option to take the knockout on Curlier. You even need like 1 energy less because there is already 20 damage on the Curlier, as Tord basically has to also mimic the opponent's play. Attach to energy active now. Tord has an energy in hand, it has not attached yet, so that's also interesting decision where you want to put that, or even if you want to put it at all, or just keep it in your hand to use concealed cards later to draw even more cards. But let's see what Tord is going for here. First, put some energy cards in play. In theory, if he wants to, he can put 1 more, which he actually does. So now, if you don't put that energy, you can take the knockout on the Curlier that already has damage. But if you attach that energy, this just means more energy in play on a Curlier that does not have damage on it itself. So this is already planning ahead for future turns where you want to attack with Brainwave with as little damage as possible. As we see Tord, 80 damage on the Curlier that has the energy card. Great choice.
Yeah, love that. Takes an energy off the board. I know it can be, you know, recycled, but it's still off the board for the minute. It also means that Curlier or Gardevoir, if it becomes that later, is going to have 20 damage on it, at least unless Cresselia, you know, uses it again. So, absolutely the right choice from Tord there. And we are in a bit of a back and forth. We are running out of time. We are at 4 minutes and 20 seconds remaining in this game. It is very unlikely at this stage, I think, that we're going to see a conclusion within time. So it's going to come down to +3 turns. Whoever has the last turn, this is going to be a very, very big concern here, because whoever's got the last turn is going to be able to go, oh, I'm down by 1. Now I'll go super aggressive 2-prize turn. So whoever is turn 0 doesn't have the last turn. So I would think both of these players here, as time is running down, they are both going to be exceptionally keen to not be turn 0. I know that's always a concern, but I think here it's a bigger concern than usual. Yeah,
we see Iono. That looked like a boss's order.
It really did. That is the boss's orders motion right
exactly.
there.
And now Tord, you see, is taking a very, very good look at all the cards in his hand. He wants to make sure that he knows exactly what's now on the bottom of the deck to make good choices in the next turn. The same for Victor here, now getting 5 fresh cards from Iono. Yeah, he also really just wants to take another knockout on the Curlier. As we see, watch how Ross called it, a Curlier, a Cresselia off, basically.
Yeah, Cresselia off is on, ladies and gentlemen, and we saw it in game 1, we're seeing it again here in game 3. And it's so good in the mirror match because, you know, we've combined with Gardevoir, and the combo between Cresselia and Gardevoir EX, an absolute thing of beauty. Accelerate energy, put 2 damage counters every time, and then move exactly 2 damage counters. It's too perfect. It works too well in this particular matchup. So I love this here. I love all the options that we're opening up. And unfortunately, when you've got Cresselia here, until you're ready to start KOing those 2 prize Pokemon, it really does seem to be the optimal play to just use Cresselia to start picking apart your opponent's bench. Because you're not just taking out your Curlier, you're taking away your opponent's draw options. And if we look at the respective board states here, Victor has essentially got 1 Gardevoir, 1 Greninja, that's 4 extra cards per turn. Whereas Tord has got 3 Curlier and a Greninja, that is 8 extra cards per turn. That's a big difference.
Yeah, but Victor did have to bench the Zacian V, which is something you don't really want to do in this situation. But otherwise, they would have not been able to be enough. I mean, in theory, he could have played it differently, taken a knockout on the Curlier with the damage. Let's see if benching this Zacian V will come back to Victor, maybe even losing him the game later on. I'm very curious to see how Tord is now replying to this kind of situation where there is no Curlier, no Ralts on Victor's bench. So for Tord there is not really a good option to attack with Cresselia. The active Cresselia of course doesn't have enough damage counters to take a knockout with Lunar Blast, for example, so Tord definitely needs to take a knockout with something else, which would be probably a Brainwave, but there's also the possibility to just be a little bit aggressive and attack with Gardevoir EX, but I'm suppose we will see a Brainwave here.
Yeah, I think Brainwave is absolutely the sensible choice here. And, start getting rid of that Cresselia, because there's no longer an easy option on Victor's bench. I keep saying about how that Cresselia is just phenomenal for taking down Curlier. Well, there's no Curlier anymore. So all of a sudden, using the Cresselia first attack is no longer good, so get rid of that. And annoyingly, the second attack of Cresselia is 10 damage short of KOing an opposing Cresselia. So I think Brainwave, yeah, there we go, has to be the play here. Get that KO and just stay 1 prize ahead. Now, actually, Tord needs to be super quick here. Now, we do see a boss's orders onto the Zacian. Tord needs to announce this attack very, very quickly. Don't play any other cards, just announce the attack, because he is going to be turned 0 if this carries on. We bench the routes, and now he does the attack.
Oh.
No, but it comes down to when Victor draws his card. Victor has not drawn his turn, so I believe...
Great play, yes.
Tord will be turned 0 here. I want to get confirmation from the judges, but I'm pretty sure that makes Victor turn 0, because this is extremely important.
Yeah, now Tord is up in the price race by a lot. And there is no easy price option on board for Tord. Victor definitely already played 1 Super Rod, so there's the only way to kind of like really respond to this situation is to get Zacian back with the Super Rod, or to use the Brainwave with the reverse energy, and we get confirmation Victor is now turn 0.
Yeah, and a lot of people think it's when the attack comes down. It is not. It is when you draw a card that turn officially passes. So even though Tord got his attack off in time, because Victor hadn't drawn his card, Victor is turn 0.
Victor's turn 0, yes.
Victor is turn 0.
We are looking at turn 0 right now.
Okay, so Tord actually will have 2 extra turns here, and I think Tord's going to be able to finish it off. It's actually ended up being a lot less important.
Yes.
Which is very interesting because of that KO on the Zacian. Without the Zacian KO, it was incredibly important. With the Zacian KO and Tord being up 2 prizes, it's actually not such a big deal anymore.
Yeah, Victor is now in a really, really difficult situation here. 4 prizes against 2. Of course, in theory, Victor just needs to get the knockout with the reversal energy cards, but then if you take the knockout on the active Gardevoir, that's only 1 prize card, so you need to have a boss. Then Tord can just respond with the Gardevoir that already has the energy cards on it, right? And then Todd goes down to 1 prize card. Victor gets turn number 2. And there needs to be like a very, very big knockout on the Gardevoir, on something else. Yeah, this is such a difficult situation for Victor. And I don't really see a great way to get out of this.
Yeah, it is. It's looking very, very good for Tord here. I just wanted to confirm what I said about turn passing when card is drawn is correct. That was a correct statement. You do need to bear in mind that sometimes the timer here is a second or 2 out. So turn did pass when Victor drew, but that was still made Victor into turn 0. I just wanted to make sure we were all completely clear on that. I didn't lie to you about when the turn passed. So we do see an attack with the Cresselia here, taking a KO on the Gardevoir, but I don't think that's enough from Victor. That still leaves Tord a prize up going into his turn, and now there is a possibility of Tord just going Zacian, Boss, loads of energy with Gardevoir EX, KO into Gardevoir EX. Tord doesn't actually need to end the game this turn.
I think Todd, I think from the board state, Todd already won because he just needs to use Moonlight Reverse on the bench Curlier. I mean, in theory, Victor could then take the on the bench rolls. I think in theory, in that case, Victor could then take the knockout on the Gardevoir EX. Then both of them are down to 2 prize cards, and if Todd is very unlucky, maybe paired with a... Yeah, no, you cannot use Boss and Ion in the same turn, right? So for Victor, he could play Boss, get rid of the Gardevoir, and then if Todd draws really well, that would create a problem. So for Todd, he might try to do something like more complicated than just taking an easy knockout on the rolls, but as far as I'm concerned, I think Todd has sealed up unless Victor has like an incredible hand.
Yeah, and we do see the Iono. Yeah, the Iono did come down here, did it not?
It was a refinement. Okay,
it was a refinement getting... Now, Iono is in hand, though. That's why I'm getting confused. There is still an Iono in hand. Tord may well wish to play this, you know, put Victor down to a 3-card hand, because he's got one of the single prize Gardevoir and 1 Greninja, which he has to have an energy for, which is not a given at this stage. So it is very likely now Tord could potentially still Boss and KO the Gardevoir EX, end it this turn. What is far more likely is that he KOs the routes, goes down to 1 prize, because even if Victor gets 2 prizes here, Tord's still got 1 more turn to be like, boom, KO, I win the game. Victor would have to, I mean, it would have to be an Iono and just hope Tord had nothing, but I don't think that's even an option because you've already got, you know, enough.
Oh yeah, Tord is doing exactly what he needs to do. Put enough energy cards on the Cresselia for a potential boss next turn, because like I said, if you use Moonglow Reverse, there is a very, very small chance that Victor just goes boss on Gardevoir EX, takes a big knockout, and then Tord is not able to get a replacement Gardevoir EX next turn. So Tord just wants to make sure, well, I have this 1 Pokémon, and for Victor to deny like this Cresselia play that is available to Tord, he would need to have Rare Candy, Gardevoir, and the boss, and enough energy cards to even take the knockout on Gardevoir, which I'm not even 100% sure is possible. I think you would need a Zacian for that, and to get the Zacian, you need a Super Rod. So it's not entirely impossible for Victor to win this game, but it's not looking good at all.
No, it really is not looking good at all here. It is, yeah, if I'm Victor, the thing is, this is Victor's last turn. So this is Victor's last turn unless prizes are tied after Tord's next turn. In theory, this is turn 2, then Tord has a turn, then the game is over, but we're tied at 1-1. If we're tied on prizes, we have to keep going until we have somebody that's ahead on prizes.
Is this a Shining Arcana for 2 energy cards? Oh man. Yeah, for Victor, this is like a very difficult situation, but this might be very important. Let's see the cards again. Yeah, it is Shining Arcana for 2 energy cards. I said earlier that maybe the Zacian V might be very important, but with the Shining Arcana, Victor might be able to place enough energy cards to take the knockout on the Gardevoir EX on the bench, if there even is a boss's order available, or Victor's just like, yeah, I realized this game is basically over, let's just show off everything I have, end it with a big bang, right?
Yeah.
And let's see, does Victor have boss's orders or not?
Here
it is.
There is boss's orders for one of the I mean, I'm not counting that energy, David. I'm assuming that's enough energy. But then we see the fist bump. Victor knows that all that's going to happen is Garcia is going to KO the Gardevoir, and Tord is going to advance to the top 4 of the World Championships 2023. Tord has had a top 4 finish, and he's won every international championship going. He is now looking to go one step further, and the crowd loves this, David. There is a big cheer.
Tord is exactly where he was some years ago, not 100% sure when exactly it was. Top 4 at Worlds is something Tord already has in his repertoire, but now another chance, 2 wins away from that World Championship title that he was yearning for so long, as he moves into a top 4, which might be one of the strongest top 4 at World Championships we have seen so far. Azul looking at him in the other bracket. Michael Premavot, the next opponent, facing off. If Tord is able to win this World Championship, that would be an amazing run.
Yeah, it would be an absolutely amazing run. And let's just mention Vance,